Welcome to this explainer. You know that feeling, right? The literal second your head hits the pillow, when you finally get to lie down and catch a break, your brain just decides to crank the volume up to an 11. It's so universally frustrating. We spend all day running around, totally exhausted, basically craving sleep. But the instant we try to power down, our mind just fires right up. All those thoughts we successfully swatted away during the day come rushing back, and man, they feel so much stronger and practically impossible to stop. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how this happens.
Because we really have to ask, why does your brain get louder at night? We all know the scenario. You're lying there, staring at the ceiling, wondering why the stuff you barely even noticed at noon is suddenly demanding your absolute, undivided attention at 2 a.m. Like, why does this massive mental traffic jam only happen when the lights go out? Well, as you'll see in the data we've got lined up, we're going to break down step by step what actually happens up there when the sun goes down.
Section 1. The silence effect. Okay, to really get the nighttime brain, we have to look at the massive environmental shift that happens between your waking hours and your sleeping hours. Think about it. During the day, your brain is just slammed with external stimuli. You've got noise, people talking to you, endless tasks to check off, emails, traffic. Your brain is constantly distracted. But at night, all that external input just vanishes. Everything gets starkly quiet. And in that total, absolute silence, your internal thoughts finally get the breathing room they need to expand. Without the noise of the world drowning them out, it's like your internal monologue suddenly finds a megaphone.
Moving to Section 2, your brain starts processing.
See, a lot of us kind of assume that turning off the bedroom lights is like flipping an off switch for the brain. But actually, scratch that. It doesn't shut off at all. Instead, it uses that newfound silence we just talked about to finally start organizing your day. So what exactly is it organizing? Well, unfinished problems you didn't resolve at work, unanswered questions that randomly popped into your head, or maybe emotions you intentionally or, unintentionally ignored while you were just trying to survive the day. Your brain basically uses the quiet of the night as its dedicated filing time, meaning everything you pushed aside while you were busy comes rushing right back to the front of the line.
Section 3. Cortisol and stress amplification.
All right, let's look a little deeper at the biological drivers here, because this explains why this nighttime processing feels so incredibly intense. Look, stress doesn't just magically disappear at night. In fact, it actually gets stronger. Why? Because you are completely out of distractions. You don't have the buffer of a busy schedule or, say, your coworkers to pull your focus, so your brain is essentially forced to hyperfocus on whatever worries you the most. Your mind zeroes right in on your stressors, simply because there's absolutely nothing else competing for its attention.
And that hyperfocus triggers a very real biological response. Enter cortisol, the stress hormone. Now, biologically, your body is designed to wind down and relax at night. But if you're obsessing over unfinished problems, your cortisol levels actually spike. When this stress hormone runs high, it tricks your brain into staying alert, basically operating as if you're in immediate physical danger. It's a total evolutionary misfire. Your body is reacting to an anxious thought the exact same way it would react to a literal predator in the room, which obviously prevents you from actually relaxing and getting to sleep.
Which brings us to Section 4, the overthinking loop. So once that cortisol spikes and your stress is amplified, you fall into this incredibly frustrating psychological trap. Here's how it goes. Step 1. You realize you're thinking way too much, so you actively try to force yourself to stop. You tell yourself, just go to sleep. But what happens? It leads right to Step 2. Your stress actually increases because you realize you aren't sleeping, and you clearly can't force your brain to shut up, which inevitably drags you into Step 3. Because your stress is now higher, your thinking actually gets worse. The very act of trying to stop your thoughts creates this brutal self-feeding loop. Thinking leads to stress, stress leads to more thinking, and honestly, the harder you try to break it, the tighter that knot gets.
And our final section, Section 5, processing the unresolved. I want to soften the focus here for a second, really just to understand why this looping experience feels so deeply terrifying and overwhelming in the dark. As the research perfectly puts it, at night, everything feels bigger. Problems feel more serious, thoughts feel more real, but that's not reality. It's your brain in a vulnerable state. I really want you to take that away from this explainer today. That 3 a.m. anxiety, it's magnified by your own exhaustion and the isolation of being in the dark. Your problems haven't actually doubled in size, it's just your brain operating in a highly vulnerable state. So the next time your brain refuses to shut down at night, just remember, it's not random torture. It's literally just your mind desperately trying to process everything you didn't have time for during the day. Which leaves us with one final, lingering question. Based on everything we've looked at today,
The silence effect, that brain processing cue, the cortisol spikes, the overthinking loop. What is the one unresolved thought that keeps you awake at night? Take a second. Identify it. Because bringing it out of the dark and into the light of day might just be the absolute key to finally getting some rest. Thanks for joining me for this explanation.